Hello there, all you event planning friends and future friends. Today we have a great episode for you. Today's speaker is a certificate holder in meeting management as well as a certified event designer. So, with that, I would like to welcome Naomi Love. Naomi, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Naomi, can you tell us in 5 career moves or less how you got to where you are?
5 career moves or less. Oh my goodness. Chess pieces. Started out in marketing, got thrown off the ship of marketing into the sea of sharks in my first event planning uh, position to take my little .com boom era now starts to date me to the CES show.
Oh,
Knew nothing about trade shows or how to plan or how to ship gear and people, and it was honestly a drop kick into the whole world of meeting and event planning. And it was when you still had to hand jam all of your um, registration forms and whatnot. So, the internet was still new. And yeah, that was my first gig. And I was not aware of all of the logistical planning, and there were lots of pieces that fell apart, and I fell flat on my face. And I didn't know, you don't know what you don't know. And but somehow I fell in love with the challenge, and from there got married. The army was wherever home was. The army sent us is was basically it. So I started doing a lot of work for the military, planning there or with nonprofit. And after my husband retired 3 years ago, we ended up in Northern California, and I landed at Stanford. Also a fluke. um, they were about the Beckman Center was about 30 to 60 days before a major symposium, and things just were not being planned well to the caliber that the director wanted. A headhunter reached out to me, said, "Hey, do you think you could help?" And the director had me sit right next to her during in the front seat of the symposium, which is not where an event manager should ever be. But she wanted me sitting right there. So I'm sitting there freaking out, not sure what else is going on behind me, but I had my little phone texting people, making sure that things were running well from my phone and running when I could to make sure that everything was okay. When I came back after our break, she leans over to me and she says, "I want you to plan the second symposium in the fall."
wow.
And that's where again, by accident, it was not anything that was planned. Academia is definitely a new world that I'm learning, but it's been awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. So, how would you say that compares then to your experience with CES, which CES 2021 just kind of came and went digitally, albeit? It, you know,
You know,
are they
so
similar?
I did CES actually in San Diego 2 months before the pandemic hit.
Wow.
So it was actually a lot of fun to be in the room and with all of the synergy of all of these other planners with me, because I don't get that. I normally don't have the opportunity to speak and be around my people. So when the pandemic hit and we had seminars that had to run its course, and I still had to do basically my capstone for CES. I had to pivot all of that to virtual also. So between mural and again, just by nature, winging it, trusting your gut, it worked. What CES gave me was the opportunity to really understand that the canvases can be used for anything and anywhere by anyone at any point in time. So it's so versatile, and it doesn't matter if you're planning a whole entire design from start to finish online, because you can do it with Zoom and with Mural. You know, if you really wanted to get super fancy, I guess you could even get one of those really neat cameras that follow you.
Orbit, I think's the latest one. Yeah. So
Is that the latest one?
yeah, it's supposedly
Okay.
AI controlled. So would you say how impactful was using event, the design canvas? Does it play into your role now? Are you guys?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I work with scientists. So, you know, they're somewhat, some of them are somewhat very, they're very introverted. And all they want to know is just their science. That's all they want to do. That's all they want to talk about is their science. So as I had to pivot my project or my CES, I had to bring together a different team that normally would not have come together to transition and pivot our seminar series to virtual. So I had a group of scientists that in the beginning, oh my goodness, it was pulling teeth. They're like, why are we doing the stakeholder alignment? We know who our stakeholders are. Why do we have to do this? It was just this constant why? And to quote Rule and Rude, trust the system, trust the process. It kept coming out of my mouth. It's just like, trust the process. Just trust the process. It will work. Trust the process. After we got through a couple of the canvases, there was that aha moment for them when we were designing and trying to figure out that event delta. Because we kept going back to the canvases to remember to stay focused on what the end goal was. Because, you know, as scientists are, they want to hypothesize and already want to start doing the do, just pulling them back. Let's focus on where the value is that we're trying to deliver. And that was their aha moment. And for me, that was just beautiful. It was just, you know, it's the proud mama moment where you see your child walk for the first time and you're like, yes, you got it.
Oh goodness. Yeah, so you're using it for the seminars, or you have used it for the seminars. Are you using it for other things now? Additional programming or your next symposium or?
I'm using it for my next symposium. I'll be using it for new seminars that we will be developing. I'm also using it as well for training. So a lot of my scientists, they do a lot of rinse and repeat with hand-holding other researchers with their science, and they tend to do a lot of rinse and repeat of their training. And so what we're doing is we're flattening it. We're recording a lot of these training sessions. So at any given point in time, they can go, you know, any researcher, postdoc, or grad student can just play, rewind, refresh, you know, because many of them travel or they don't, they're focused on other research, and then they have to come back and they don't remember how to use certain instruments.
Yeah, yeah. So with the symposium, will your next symposium, do you think, be digital or? in person or?
That if you can get my crystal ball to work, I will owe you a bottle of wine, chocolate, you name it, bourbon. I'm planning for hybrid.
Okay.
When exactly that will happen, we're not too certain. That is up to my director to basically say, okay, go, and
Yeah.
give me that green light so I can start running. An interesting one that I'm using the Canvas for is to develop a newsletter.
Interesting. So similar.
So it's focused more on community.
Okay. That makes sense. So, wow, that is an interesting. I'm trying to work through the steps here. Empathy map and all. So,
Empathy mapping, yes.
yeah,
Empathy mapping my stakeholders, such as the chairs of the departments,
yeah.
my director, 4 directors actually,
Whoa.
5, 6 directors, 4 chairs. And then there are the postdocs and the grad students and other researchers and any of the client base who use our service centers. Then there's the Beckman Foundation, Stanford. So the long list of stakeholders are there if I break it down enough. And then it's just empathy mapping, so that way we can develop this. It's more of an internal newsletter.
Sure.
Currently geared for the Beckman Center, but then for School of Medicine, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Nice. Nice. So, I'm loving the symposium. I'm sorry. So with the symposium, if it's hybrid, we'll presume that it is. Have you begun to kind of map that out, and put it on the canvas? And if so, are you seeing things? Are you learning things through that process? Where you have some differences between in-person and digital, or are there any kind of novel findings that you've come to so far?
Wow. I kind of treat them both the same personally.
Okay.
I would have to say digital's a little bit harder because you're still trying to create that value to the audience and elevate the production.
Yeah.
And create that engagement that wouldn't necessarily be there in person, because you've got that synergy going with people live. I'm appreciating more of the virtual because of the reach, and because it's something that can be used for future reference, where with a live symposium, one and done.
So by that you mean, I guess, your virtual events are recorded. Presumably, your live symposium would not be. Is that
correct?
Yeah. Do you think that? So do you think that would play into, or might play into, how you guys budget in the future? Would you be more likely to record some of those in-person events? I mean, obviously, if they're hybrid, I guess you have to. But do you think this has kind of changed how you look at that?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it is using the canvas again to articulate that value and determine whether or not goals and objectives have changed with my primary stakeholders.
Yeah.
Because it's a different platform, it's a different world, and it's a different way of connecting and reaching people that have not been available to us in the past. So things are slightly changing and tweaking with what our end result will be. We don't necessarily, all of our symposiums are free. So it's not a return on investment that's monetary. It's a return on investment that is all just soft. It's the accolades. It's the buzz that
Harder to
is
calculate.
more generative. It's a lot harder to calculate, actually. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that's interesting. So when you're looking at, So your output then, your behavior change, um, your desired state would be the same for in-person and hybrid, or I'm sorry, in-person and digital. Your digital people, I'm presuming that part of the, you kind of mentioned connection a few times. Are are you more thoughtful about how you connect people and how that translates into that behavior change? Is that an issue, or um, how do you see that?
So those are one of my personal goals, is ensuring that there is a way or a means for um, attendees or my speakers or my stakeholders to still connect.
Yeah, yeah. So, and are you trying to connect the in-person and the digital together, or just connect the digital to other digital, or
Right now, it is digital to digital.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a trend I've kind of seen too. So interesting. And then your metrics for tracking must be different too, right? Digital, you know who signed up and who logged in.
Yes.
Wow, that's a you're going to have some very different data sets to play with very soon, I guess.
It's a little daunting because typically because we don't necessarily um, track where people go. It'll yes, definitely give us a lot more insight into the behavior of our attendees to know, okay, they really liked this speaker or this topic and they want to hear more about this. But then to have that conversation continue afterward, those are those opportunities that are completely untapped for us.
Yeah, because you're free and you're kind of in and out and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, I love going to free events. Not a fan of putting them on. You just have so little to work with, right? There's a lot of times not even a registration.
That used to be the point, the case, and that's changed since I've come on board because you got to know who your audience is.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to know, at least a little, some few little breadcrumbs.
Well, that's actually a good point. When you're talking about you know, certified event design, to CED, one of the things that we're always looking at is stakeholders. Do you think digital events and the amount of information we're slowly beginning to garner from people, it used to just be at best your first, last name, and email. And then we started collecting titles and companies. A lot of events lately have started garnering information about industry and other facets of what makes that individual or attendee. Do you think that will better inform in the future who your stakeholders are? Do you think there's potential to use that to refine what you personally perceive versus now what you can prove with data?
Oh, absolutely. It's just kind of one of those things that I tend to sometimes go head to head with some of my directors is they tend to think that there's a particular type of student that is interested in their service center, for example, where I'm actually collecting data that shows no, not necessarily.
And then you have to broach that
So,
softly.
well, yes, there's some protocol to showing, hey, so look, we actually have this new group of people that we actually have not been speaking to.
Yeah.
How do we get them to be part of this community and this scientific research that we're all doing or they're doing? And I just help bring people together.
Yeah, and that really would play into potentially um, why you think people are coming into an event and how you affect that change on the back end a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Yeah, that's
But
really,
definitely just especially with my audiences, they tend to be from that scientific mindset, and it has to be just quick, easy, and only asking for the information that is vital for you. I mean, because if it's too much, if you're asking too much, you start losing it. Because I've seen that also, where people are trying to just generate way too much information,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's just it's too much.
We've discussed Mural. Um, has Mural begun to go into some of your online seminars or other events? Do you see?
All of them, all of them.
So you're
I only use Mural.
right, and then do your scientists or are your scientists running any of these, or
Hmm.
and
So
they're
I
using
invite them in,
and they're using Mural
and
too?
we mhm, Zoom, Mural, and that's how we're doing it all.
Interesting. And so when they actually run the seminar, are they using it then too?
Mural, no.
No.
Then it's me behind the scenes running Zoom, monitoring, just like any other
Lecture.
meeting lecture that you would normally see,
Interesting.
pulling people into breakout sessions and whatnot. But I'm the behind the scenes person, kind of pulling it together. But no, Mural, unfortunately, I wish there was a way for them to use Mural and have people more interaction, have that engagement. That would be interesting.
So I guess one other question I would have is, as things continue to change, hybrid events happen. Do you think there will be a time when you're planning kind of wholly separate events? One set of planning for a digital event that's a digital standalone, and one set of planning for solely in-person event. And do you think,
Definitely.
yeah?
Definitely. Yes.
And then the engagement that we've been talking about and the connection, those will be very different for digital versus in person, I would assume. Do you think you would have to map that out all the way from beginning to end in that kind of event canvas methodology to get the best results?
Depends on which group I'm talking to
Yeah,
or which function. There's some that I can easily skip all of the empathy mapping. I mean, I'll do a quick run through to make sure that things are still where they are, or if there are subtle things that have changed, then we'll address it at that point. Um, I can skip a few steps,
yeah, yeah. Interesting.
depending on the on who or what group and whatnot. Um, so let's say it's our board meetings.
Yeah.
Those are things that I can easily skip through some of the process and then go to um, you know more of I can actually go straight into articulating the change and focusing on that event delta. It's like I could skip a lot
So
and
you're
go, okay, what can we do to what exit behavior do we want, and go straight into the event delta.
yeah. So you've designed out most of your meetings and events then, 'cause
Yes. And eventually what's neat, and you'll get there, and I'm a little rough around the edges still with the canvas, but Rule and Rude did mention that eventually you're able to start mapping these things out in your head.
sure, yeah, repetition.
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, I guess one kind of question to end on is, do you have three books that you would recommend for event planners who are trying to do some of this in digital events? Are there three books that you've read that have really shaped your opinion on how to design these events that have been useful in the last year?
Definitely the book from the guys.
Sure.
So you've got your event design book. Um, I've just started to mess with Design to Change. So
Nice.
it's an adult coloring book. So it really starts to give that visualization of how to event plan and give a storyline and bring people on to the same page. And I'm not a very artistic person, so this is very helpful to me because my stick drawings are kind of not so fun. And then I would also recommend The Art of Gathering.
It's next on my list.
So this is, that's lots of little treasures, so I won't spoil it for you.
I'm reading Belong Now. Art of Gathering is next. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you
All
so
right,
much.
Belong Now. Now it's my turn. You gave me one.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, please come back next Thursday. We'll have another great episode. I look forward to seeing you then. For those of you who are using Zoom, as always, my Zoom can't miss checklist will be in the links in the description so that you can use it for all of your Zoom events, meetings, and webinars. Thanks, and have a great day.